Well, hello. This is Karen Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to the Wrastlin Wrantz Project. Whatever the promotion, we're here to learn and discuss. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes of wrestling discussion with your hosts, Shugo and James.
Welcome back to the Wrastlin Wrantz Project. We have got lots to talk about today. Last time we had Conrad on from Everything Pro Wrestling. Definitely go give him a subscribe or a follow on social media. We spoke all about Jon Moxley and his potential within the AEW World Championship tournament. But just shortly after uploading it, it seemed a lot of news came out. Jon Moxley is getting help with some personal issues in recovery, which has seen Miro replace him in the tournament. Our best wishes go to Moxley on his recovery, and the very next day, WWE ended up releasing close to 20 people. Names like Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Eva Marie, Nia Jax, Ember Moon, Karrion Kross, and Scarlett, Lucha House Party, Beeb Fab from Hit Row, Frankie Monet, a.k.a. Taya Valkyrie, Oni Lorcan, and quite a few more names. There's just so many. It happened so fast, and here we are at Wrastlin Wrantz being one of the last podcast to talk about it, because it literally happened right after we recorded our last one. It was just absolutely shocking. I can say that WWE continually has the element of surprise, but not in a complimentary fashion. So with that, AEW's Full Gear is around the corner, and the build to WWE Survivor Series and the news of New Japan's WrestleKingdom 16 becoming 3 nights. There is lots to dive into, and I'm incredibly pleased to welcome back my co-host to the podcast. James, how's it going today, man?
It's going well. It's such a pleasure to be here. Some people will be like, the lady at the beginning said James. What's this all about? Who's this James guy? We've never heard of him. Well, hello, listeners. I'm here to ruin your day. No, I'm not. It's going to be a pleasure. I lots to talk about. It was WrestleMania before WrestleMania that I was last on this on Wrastlin Wrantz. I'm on the prediction show as well, so.
Yeah, we just taking a peek behind the curtain. We just finished wrapping up the predictions for AEW Full Gear, which both of these episodes will be at the same time. So I was making a joke on the first episode of on predictions. I was making a joke that if you listen to the podcast, Wrastlin Wrantz first or predictions first, that you'd be hearing the same type of message. So whatever you listen to first, welcome, and we're happy to have you. But yes, there's been so much going on. And actually, it's funny that last time you came back to the podcast after taking a brief hiatus, I had changed everything around. I had changed images around. I changed the furniture, as I mentioned before. And here you are coming back with brand new season, brand new change of the furniture again. Everything looks shiny and different. So yeah, it's like keep going away, because every time you come back, you know, it looks. I make everything look so nice for you when you come back.
It's like you're trying to keep me, Cody. we joked about this before in the predictions. Spoilers: the relationship's currently on the rocks. Everybody, Cody's trying to make me feel special, and he is. He's succeeding. He's succeeding right now.
We're just not in sync anymore. It's been so long, and when we realized today that it was March, it was like, oh my gosh, 7 months, 8 months, 7-8 months of not talking wrestling. I mean, we've been keeping in touch, of course.
Yeah, we talk wrestling, but just not to everybody else.
Yeah, so yeah, and of course, you know, Wrastlin Wrantz went. There was 2 months there where I didn't have any wrestling content, was because I was still working out some stuff. And if you're interested in the music side of things, Lotus Moon Productions has been focusing a lot on the independent music side of things. Various amounts of synthwave artists right now. If you're not sure what synthwave is or synth pop, it's relatively sounds like new disco or retrowave, or it gives you that 80s kind of feel. Or on various occasions, it can make you feel like you're in space or playing old classic video games. So anyway, just shouting that out there. And we also have a radio show now as well. And Project Saga, that I had mentioned a while back, I believe, is on its way out very, very soon, which is an incredible project that I'm bringing out. So look forward to that as well. But let's get to the wrestling. Let's dive into it. So the first thing I need to bring up is all of the releases, because I know everybody else has talked about them, and Conrad and I wanted to talk about them so much, but we didn't get the time to. We were both busy, and it happened, like I said, the day after we had spoken. So all of those names, especially like Keith Lee, you know, and Mia Yim, and how Karrion Kross went, Ember Moon, and how B-Fab was on Hit Row there on SmackDown. I was actually digging the whole Hit Row thing, and then they took B Fab out, and like she really brought something special to it. But all of those names and so many others, how did you feel when you learned all that?
It's always a difficult thing when these releases get announced now, because you initially go, oh God, like people have lost their incomes. And then you start, then the fan in you starts going, yes, but all the opportunities that these people can now pursue. Yeah, I mean the biggest surprise, yeah, B-Fab makes it. She's called up to SmackDown the week before. You know, that was the one that hit me the hardest, because I've not seen any Hit Row. I'll be honest. I don't keep up with WWE. Time this year has just meant that, honestly, I was getting to the point where I wasn't really paying much attention to them as a show, because I just got fed up with the whole company. But the wrestlers are still great. And yeah, to learn that she'd been on SmackDown, she'd, like, WWE is the dream for wrestlers. You know, that generation, there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they used to be the dream.
Yeah, there was nowhere else to go, so they'd go to WWE and achieve their dream. And yeah, to then get served your release the week later it's shocking. But to be honest, are we surprised that WWE does this? No.
What I'm surprised about, and what I meant there when I said, you know, they continually have the element of surprise, is I can't believe they continually say budget cuts when they're reporting record amounts of money, and then they release these amazing people, and then they say, like, oh, you know, Nia Jax, for example, she was dealing with mental health issues, and all she requested was more time to have off for her mental health.
Yes.
And they fired her. And I'm like, You know, you and I have spoken about Nia Jax, you know, accidentally injuring people, and we have said in the past where, you know, we don't want Nia Jax to lose her job or anything, but it wouldn't be bad if she went to the Performance Center, you know, worked out a few kinks, you know, just to become a better wrestler. Anybody can do that. Anybody, I don't care who you are, can always practice their craft and become better. It doesn't matter if you're Kenny Omega. It doesn't matter if you're Okada. It doesn't matter if you're Roman Reigns. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, Shawn Michaels back in the day. It doesn't matter who you are, Bret Hart. Like, you know, the best there was, best ever will be. But even then, the more you practice, the better your craft becomes. And that was a lot of what people were talking about with Nia Jax. But with how they let her go, it was just wrong, in my opinion. Like with Bray Wyatt, he was dealing with mental health issues too as well. Yep. And he was also scheduled to come back in the middle of August, and then he got released, and he was the number one salesperson, and he got let go over the summer. Yep. So that was a huge shock. But what also shocks me, and this is what bothers me, as a company to come out and say that it's budget cuts. Oni Lorcan, now, while a lot of people don't fully know Oni yet, because, you know, he's been on NXT a lot, and he just came up to the main shows. He literally signed a contract, a new main show. I guess main show you want to call it now, because NXT is technically back to developmental now again. But yeah, 2.0 also happened while you were gone.
I know, and my God, is that unrecognizable?
Just like getting to my thing, it was like 1 week after they made him sign a new contract, which took him away from the 30-day period and entered a 90-day period if he lost his job, and then 1 week later you fire him. It's just like, wait a tick. Like, you could have just not made him. If you knew if you fire him 2 weeks ago, why did you make him sign to make him wait 3 months? And don't tell me that you didn't know you weren't going to let him go. And if that's the case, then you are one of the most disorganized companies I have ever heard of in my life. Like, I don't mean to be mean. I mean, I'm talking about just flat out organization. Because how can you get people like Hit Row or people from Hit Row or anybody who moves up to the main shows? Like, let's say Karrion Kross, for example. Karrion Kross was hot in NXT. He had the whole thing around him with him and Scarlett. Now, I wasn't a huge Karrion Kross fan, but I was starting to get it, and I was starting to understand. And then he gets picked on, like, you know, he gets rolled up by Jeff Hardy, and then they change his character. He looks like some crazy gimp BDSM thing from Wish, and then they changed him again, and then he's fired. So he was on the main show, I think, for maybe a month, maybe two, but then again, 90 days now. It was 3 days in NXT. So it's like, how are you not this organized? How do you not have a clear picture of what you're going to do with these people in the next at least 30 days? I'm not talking about long-term booking like for 6 months through 2 months, 4 months, but at least have an idea of where you're going to put so-and-so over the next few weeks. And to be able to get Oni to sign a contract, or anybody like that to say, yep, you're going to sign a contract and this new, everything's fine. And then a week later, you're just like, you're gone, you're fired. And it really shows that unless you're an actual champion with a belt, nobody is safe.
Well, yeah, you say that, but Bray Wyatt, like,
no, Bray Wyatt didn't have the championship.
He didn't have the championship, but he was a top merch seller. He was making a lot of money for the company. So and Braun Strowman, like, he seemed to be a lifer there, and he's gone. But also, you talk about the disorganized chaos. Disorganized chaos. Chaos is disorganized. Terrible English there. Keith Lee, or Bearcat Lee, as he was repackaged 2 weeks and then he's gone.
Yep.
It just is absolute proof that who knows what's going on there. I would love to know what is going on behind the walls at Stamford, Connecticut, because it honestly, you look at it and it's the same. I was thinking about what CM Punk said years ago, where you're millionaires and you should be billionaires. About the McMahons.
Yeah, there's a promo with him and Triple H and John Laurinaitis in the ring 10 years ago, and his promo is so true to today. Yeah,
they are billionaires by mistake. There is no way. There just seems to be the way they've and now we have a viable alternative in the US for the first time in years. I know Impact and TNA have been there, but they never had the finance. They had the finance, but they kind of didn't book it correctly. And you see the alternative and you go, actually, this is what wrestling is. And I've had that discovery. Previously, my wrestling interests would last about a year, and then I'd have to take a year off or something. And I realized why, because it insulted my intelligence. And I didn't realize it at the time. And then AEW comes along and it's like, oh yeah, because I got back into wrestling, WWE, I got back into wrestling, and I was like, oh wow, all these new guys, fantastic. Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, I don't know who these guys are, they're amazing. AJ Styles, like, these are brand new names to me. Shinsuke Nakamura. And then about 18 months down the line, I was like, yeah, it was what broke me was the whole Viking experience.
Yeah, that broke a lot of people.
It kind of was like, oh no, they're not called the Viking experience, and they don't do this and everything. And I was just like, oh no, this is not good. And then the whole NXT guys coming up, so you had Ricochet and Aleister Black coming up and suddenly becoming a tag team, and you had Johnny Gargano and Ciampa suddenly becoming a tag team despite being in a massive feud together, like in the greatest story ever. And then Ciampa got injured, so you never got the end of that payoff. And it just is, they're billionaires because there was no alternative. And I do feel WWE will always be there. But I feel WWE will be now the children's wrestling show that feeds into, when you become a teenager, you might start watching AEW because it's cooler. If it stays the same as it is right now, which, in 5 years' time, it possibly won't be. But the current trajectory of the companies right now is that, WWE will be a children's feeder series right now. And honestly, I don't know if let's talk. We've got Kevin Owens. He's not staying, is he?
No, his contract's expiring next month, and I mean, if he stays, he stays. If he's comfortable there, he's comfortable.
Yeah, it's free
even
choice.
even the Young Bucks have made hints that he's coming over next month, so or in the future. So
yeah, so they've got Charlotte Flair.
I don't know.
Well, exactly. Like 6 months ago, if you said Charlotte Flair will possibly be at the point of, you know what, she's probably thinking, I'm leaving here and I'm going to go to AEW, like possibly seriously, was out the question. Charlotte was like the golden child.
Now it's there.
And now, you know, a dad would be there already if it wasn't for the controversies of Dark Side of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Her future husband, yeah. Oh, husband, I don't know if they're married yet.
Is husband, husband, fiance. Yeah. I don't know.
I know they definitely were engaged. So yeah, the significant other. There we go. Let's cover ourselves. Is there, like, after a rocky start, absolutely killing it now. Like, I don't think anybody, unless you're there and you've really got a good relationship with Vince, and even that might suddenly change.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, nobody's really safe there.
Yeah, and that must suck too, like for company morale. Like just when you think that everything's going well, oh, you just got repackaged. Oh, this is happening. Oh, the stable's going well. Oh, I'm making the most money. Like you have all this confidence, and then all of a sudden you're jobless. And it's like, wait, what? This just came from nowhere. What? Like, I remember when, back when the pandemic first had started and we saw that Drake Maverick video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like so many people since then. There have been, I believe, almost 80 people who have been released by WWE in 2021 alone.
I have just looked it up. I've got all 72 WWE superstars released in 2021.
Like I said, almost 80.
Almost 80.
People. And like part of me I'm about to go on a rant now, and I'm in the right place,
You're in the right show.
I'm on the right show, but I want to say this because I want to point out the fact that WWE/WWF was what made me a wrestling fan when I was a child. I fell in love with wrestling because of WWE. I fell in love with wrestling because of WCW, or WWF back then, WCW. I really, really did. I remember being 4 and 5 and watching WCW on Saturdays. I remember watching whatever wrestling I could get my hands on when I was a child. And then as I got older, I was allowed to stay up longer and watch Raw and do this, the Monday Night Wars and stuff like that. I was a WWE guy back in the day. I really was. My favorites back then, were Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Triple H, and Stone Cold, and The Rock. Yes, oh my gosh, yes, The Rock, and
future president of the United States.
Possibly, yeah. And then but then we had, of course, all the tag teams with the introducing of the TLCs with Jeff Hardy. The Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, and there was just so much going on back in the late 90s and early 90s too, but with so many names, and I have so many great memories of WWE, and I think this is why I get upset. Not really upset, like I'm not losing sleep over WWE ever. I just don't invest anymore, and I started to lose that investment because over the years it wasn't just NXT. I was starting to see things like all I wanted. I got to a point as I grew older. When I was a kid, I always wanted my favorites to win. Of course, you're a kid, you want your favorite wrestler to win. But as I grew older, it was no longer about my favorites winning. It was about, I just want a good story. Okay, I've seen this already. I just want a good story. Don't get me wrong. We've had some incredible stories over even the past 20 years within WWE. We really have. Like the Tribal Chief angle right now is actually incredibly good. I really enjoyed the whole Brock Lesnar thing. I really thought Brock Lesnar might have taken it. I wasn't sure, but I'm digging the Tribal Chief angle. I really, really am. But with how WWE treats their employees, now again, I'm not there. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, backstage. I don't know everything, nor does anybody else, unless you work there. But how do you release such talented people? How do you mess up such talented people? And this is where we go into NXT and NXT 2.0. Now, NXT, I got into roughly back when I believe it was Finn Balor had just gotten the NXT Championship, I believe. It was around those days where Samoa Joe was down there, Shinsuke was down there, Sammy was down there, Kevin Owens was down there. I think Aleister Black was just making his debut. And I've been watching NXT since then, so it was incredible. And I was like, oh, God, these guys are the future of the business, and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Bayley were putting on those incredible matches down there, and that's when I got into NXT, and I was like, this is something. This is the future. This is so. In my head at the time, in my little ignorant, hopeful head, my blissful head, and when Alexa Bliss was down there too, I was thinking, yeah, this is the future. I remember when Alexa Bliss was for Blake and Murphy. She was the manager, but and look where Buddy Matthews now was no longer in the company either. But yeah, it's just so many things have changed, and every time I've taken a little bit of investment into NXT, going, oh, I can't wait for this person to move up to the show. I can't wait for this person, or I can't wait for them to use this person. I can't wait to see this name versus this name on the main shows, and I'm continually burned. It's very, very few times where we have an NXT person shine like the way they do. Like, yes, we have Seth Rollins. Yes, we have Roman Reigns that were in NXT, like way, way back in the day before, Finn Balor and stuff like that. And then, of course, Kevin Owens has had a championship run. He's had many championships. But NXT continues to burn me with investments and characters. And half the time they don't even counter in NXT backgrounds unless it caters to a story, which I think, it's like, even like Charlotte is more than 11-time champion. They've suddenly just stopped counting her NXT championship wins. And with Mandy Rose, like I love Mandy Rose being the new NXT champion, but she definitely deserves it. But man, her on the main show with Fire and Desire with her and Sonya, they should have been tag team champions long ago. And pardon me, I heard you call from me there.
No, I was kind of sighing in the way that, yeah, you mentioned Fire and Desire, and yeah, they should have had so much. They should have, like, Sonya Deville should have been given a run. Mandy was on the cusp of getting something on the main roster. Yeah. The way, if you go back to 2018 in the women's division in the WWE, it main evented WrestleMania. You had Ronda Rousey, you had Charlotte, and you had Becky. And you look at the demise of that division since then, and it's just incompetence.
Yeah.
It's not you haven't had the talent.
Yeah,
you just are incompetent at everything. And that, like, people say, oh, the NXT women's division, though. Yeah, that NXT women's division, yeah, or everything you liked about NXT, it doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't, and that's a lot of, what though, a lot of people do like the 2.0, and I'm not going to take that away from anybody. It's just not my cup of tea. And I've tried. I've honestly given it a try. I've sat there, watched it, and I can see some potential, along with like Braun Breaker, for example, which he totally should be called his real name. But and I see a lot of potential with Toxic Attraction, with Mandy Rose, and I see a lot of potential among other people there too. But I can't, like, and this is where I actually knew this week that I wasn't invested no more. NXT 2.0 killed it for me. Everything that they've done with the releases, sorry, pardon me, audience, if you hear those sirens, please just drive by. I promise you I'm doing everything right.
He's not. Get him.
James comes on. I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
I've got some bad news.
But yeah, like I actually completely forgot NXT was on Tuesday, the other, like, 2 days ago. I had gone on Twitter and I was like, yeah, I have I'm a big DC fan, so I watch all the DC TV shows, and Supergirl finale was on that night, and I was looking forward to that, and I was like, yeah, Supergirl's on tonight. I was like, no, I don't believe I have anything else to watch, and I couldn't remember for the life of me. I was just like, yep, Supergirl, I want to play some games, I want to do this, and then here I am going on Twitter, and all of a sudden I'm seeing NXT results. Like, this is like while NXT is going on, while it's on. And I was like, oh, right, it's Tuesday. NXT's on. Oh well. And I didn't care. I don't care. And I like how they've completely changed it. You know what? You want to revamp your show, but now it just looks like a mini version of Raw.
Which is not a good thing.
I know it's not. It's not.
No.
And the sad thing is, this is no longer Triple H's baby anymore. Like Triple H had final say on everything before. Now Vince has the final say on what goes on in NXT, and that's the problem. Now again, like I said, the rant. I don't want to give Vince a hard time. Vince has given me incredible memories over the years. Him and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Eric Bischoff, like everything that happened back then was just like Vince is a character that we're never going to have again. You got to realize that as any wrestling fan, like him or hate him, Vince McMahon as a character on television or a man behind the scenes, there will never be another Vince McMahon. He has come up with some incredible characters over the years. It's the same guy that's given us The Undertaker. Okay? So, like, Vince has given us incredible stars over the years. But something has shifted. Something has changed, at least in the last 5 years, maybe longer. But I've noticed it. I've tried to look the other way. I've tried to be invested, but I've continually got burned. And when I say this, people always say, oh, yeah, he's an AEW fanboy. And you know what? Maybe I am. But they've only been around for 2.5 years, and they're bound to make mistakes like anybody else. But when it came to New Japan Wrestling and when it came to AEW, I was watching WWE every week. I will always watch WWE every single week. It'll always be on the background, or if a segment or a match comes on that I want to see, I will watch. But I can no longer invest. I'm done. It's like the boy who cried wolf. I cannot believe in this in the system, in the what's the word that we always do, like trust the process. I cannot trust the process anymore with WWE. And New Japan and AEW, when I watched them, they literally revitalized my passion for wrestling, because and I've had this talk with many people, and they feel the same way, where it's like, yeah, I've watched WWE, but I was never like freaking out. I think the last freak out moment I had in WWE was when the Hardys came back at WrestleMania a few years ago. I think that was the last time I literally jumped out of my chair, because I knew the rumors, but I jumped out of my chair and I saw Jeff and Matt come out finally after all these years, and they won the tag team champions, and the New Day introduced them, like championships, and the New Day introduced them. It was an amazing moment. The audience lost their goddamn mind. And it was a great WrestleMania too. But like there's been some good WrestleManias too. But it's just I can't trust the process anymore. If they end up putting on good stuff, they end up putting on good stuff. But I kept thinking to myself all of these years, am I getting older now? Maybe WWE isn't my thing anymore. Maybe wrestling isn't my thing anymore. You know, maybe I'm stepping away from it. Maybe I'm maturing, you know. But that wasn't the case, because the second I started watching New Japan, the second I started watching AEW, I was like, this is wrestling. This is what's gotten me in. This is what I used to like. Now WWE was pretty crazy back in the early 90s and stuff. But there were some good matches, and there were some really good storylines, and not everything was just overproduced and scripted to a T where you can't even breathe, you know, if the script doesn't say it, you know, like that's how controlled the WWE environment is. And if that's for somebody, if that's the mold that they want, great. If that's what works for you, great. But in my opinion, if I wanted to become a wrestler, I would not want to go to WWE. WWE is still the dream to many, many, many people, and it will always be the dream to many, many people. But now the dream has changed with other people as well. And again, like we've talked about, AEW comes in, and you know, again, New Japan is getting more popular as the years go on, especially with WrestleKingdom, as I mentioned, becoming 3 nights instead of 2 nights. Like WWE went 2 nights after WrestleKingdom went 2 nights. Now New Japan's like, well, we're gonna go 3 nights now. And the main event of that is Shingo Takagi versus Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, it sounds incredible. But that's the shit. That's my rant. Is I will never take anything away that Vince has ever given me, because I mean it. There will never be another Vince McMahon. This is a character. This is a man. This is a person in wrestling who has cemented an amazing history of things. But now there seems to be like everything is all about the money now, it seems. Like it's not about the fans. They sit there and tell us it's about the fans. Or they came out a few years ago, remember, and they said that you're in charge. We're sorry for the low ratings. You know, this is going to happen. You're going to see changes. And I was like, okay. Oh, here they are, all in the ring apologizing their ass off. But let's see how long this lasts. And it didn't. And the last part of my rant is people that are comparing that ratings are going down for Raw because of sports, because they're competing with the NHL, they're competing with this, they're competing with that. And I'm like, that may be true to a point. but ratings have dropped over 40% in the last 3 years with Raw. So, and you know what hasn't gone anywhere in the last few years? It's sports, NHL, and all the things that they compete with every single Monday. They've been competing with that Monday block forever. But now, instead of having, 3.2, 2.8, 2.4, 2.2, 1.8, 1.6, 1.4, Raw's ratings have steadily gone down, 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 down over the years. And that's because they can't keep an audience. They just recorded the lowest hour in history with a 1.3 something rating on Monday, which is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, they say, oh, yes, it's because of this program over here and this program over here and this sporting program over here that's gotten 10 and 12, 14 million views. But I'm like, okay, well, then what happened to the 2 million people that were invested into Raw like 2 to 3 years ago? It's like 2 million, like almost 2 million people have dropped off watching Raw in the last 5 years. That's insane.
Well, it's even more than that, because I remember when I came back into wrestling, what year was that? Probably 2018 time. So I'd come back after a long hiatus, and the conversation was there. Like, Raw had halved its viewership.
Yeah.
It was at about 4 million back then. Like, they'd kill for 4 million.
Oh my
and
God.
when the Fox deal got announced for SmackDown, they were like, oh yeah, we're aiming for 4 million each week, and it's never hit it. Never.
They wanted at least a 3.3 in the rating, and they hit it twice, I think.
Oh right, there we go.
3.3. Yeah. But they have not been meeting Fox's expectations or whatever. And SmackDown had one of the lowest ratings it's had in quite a long time too, at 1.9 something.
Yeah.
And people are, and this is where I want to be fair here, because people are comparing WWE and AEW with the rating system. I'm like, this is a company that's been around for 2.5 years compared to a company that's been around for almost 50. Like, it's also a huge difference.
It's also a company, you mentioned wrestling, people go WWE and you go, no, wrestling.
Yeah.
And I just was typing it there. I just looked him up. Do you remember Ben Carter? And what a buzz there was with Ben Carter in AEW.
I do, yes.
A free agent, Ben Carter. Everybody was like, he's going to go to AEW. He's going to go to AEW. And he signed for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what he's called now?
No, I actually haven't heard anything about him.
Okay, so he is in NXT UK.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. I knew he went there.
He's called Nathan Fraser.
I just gotta give everybody a name.
There you go. Here's your brand new name, Ben. Nathan. I
call it their slave names.
It's just like, what is this? He's obviously made that choice. He's a WWE fan. I say was mistakenly, but it could be a Freudian slip of him maybe thinking, Jesus. He maybe looks at Dante Martin at AEW and goes, what could have been?
Oh my God. Just mentioning Dante Martin, that kid is going to shine so goddamn hard. As long as everything goes right, no crazy bumps or anything, or no, nothing bad happens. Dante Martin his future is so like in lights. It's ridiculous of how talented that kid is.
Yeah. And being teamed up with Leah Rush, like watching Leah Rush last night, I forgot how much I enjoy watching Leah Rush.
Well, actually, yeah. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
He's so different to anything else you see in the ring. Like, just running the ropes. He doesn't run up and down the ropes. No, he runs, says at the hard cam side. He'll then dart off to the right and fool you, the viewer, into where he's running next. So the guy he's wrestling with has no idea where he's coming from. He's just amazing, is Leah Rush. Well, yeah, and again, at NXT, let him go. WWE, let him go.
I always say this to people, and actually we mentioned this while we were watching Dynamite when Leah Rush came on, and I was like, did you guys remember? And two people remembered. One of them didn't watch it, which is fine, but I mean, it's a fantastic match, and I recommend people to go find it. But it was on NXT, and it was Leah Rush versus Angel Garza for the NXT.
Yes.
And my God, they went almost a half hour
Oh, it was
And
awesome.
it was New Japan quality. It was New Japan quality match, and it was an amazing match. Like, I'm getting goosebumps here talking about it. No joke. Like, I'm watching the hairs on my arm just rise. And Lio Rush and Angel Garza, like, just let them fly. Just let them go. Let them do what they're trained to do. Like, if you want to, book them in this certain image and make them go that certain way, fine. But let them shine in the ring. Like, let them do what they can do. Like, for example, Drew McIntyre versus Ricochet on Raw was actually pretty neat, or not on SmackDown, to see that spot where Ricochet gets hit by the Claymore when he comes off the thing, right? It was cool, and it was a good back and forth of them, but it was only like 4.5 minutes. I can't invest in that. I could go, oh yeah, that's a cool spot. Yeah, it's a cool spot. Yeah, it's a cool spot. But 4.5 minutes, I can't. That's longer than any match in the entire Queen's Crown.
Oh, God,
like,
yeah.
Except for the finals. I think the finals might have gone 5 minutes.
I don't. We always used to joke on here, like, we would always mention, like, Ricochet. Oh, it makes me sad. Like, Ricochet is the typical example of what they've got, but I also think of Volta.
Yes.
Like, can you imagine Volta in AEW?
Oh my gosh, I'm a little worried right now because apparently there's rumors that he's going to be going to SmackDown. And
no.
I hope they use him well. I really do. They used him well as the NXT UK champion, but that doesn't mean anything once you come to the main shows.
But Vince wasn't watching that.
I don't know.
And Volta's body is not what Vince would like to see.
But he's every match I've watched with him is excellent.
Oh, he's amazing.
And Dragunov is amazing as well.
And these guys are just hidden away. Like Tyler Bates, Volta, any match with Volta in it is, unbelievable, really. And he had that. Again, he was the great white shark, I suppose, of the independents when I came in, and I knew about Volta, and I was finding out about all these independent guys and bits. And when he signed for WWE, I was like, awesome, let's watch him. And what are we? 3.5 years down the line, and Survivor Series he got fed a couple of years ago, didn't he? When NXT were there, and Keith Lee, remember Keith Lee, who was face to face.
Forget about Keith Lee.
Face to face with
Brock Lesnar too.
With Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, and
Brock loved it too. Brock loved it.
He was like, "Ooh, big boy coming here."
Yeah, Brock. I wanted to see Brock versus Keith so goddamn bad. Oh man, but and actually, speaking of Survivor Series, let's use this to wrap up the last 5 minutes because I want your opinion on something, and I'm pretty sure I know the opinion about it. But in my opinion, the belt swaps got to stop. And this is where we mentioned Charlotte, getting upset because she was like, this is where it's happened. It's like, okay, if you're in WWE, you got to follow the process, right? You got to, if there's a draft, whatever, you got to follow their rules, whatever. If you're with WWE, you play by their rules, and which is fair because it's their company. They can do whatever the hell they want, whether you agree with it or not. But these belt swap things, like if they were going to swap the belts, for God's sakes, make a storyline around it. Make it interesting. Okay, oh my God, the Raw belt is now on SmackDown. Oh my God, the SmackDown belt's on Raw. Oh no, how are we going to get out of this? Okay, let's make a month or two feud out of where somebody from SmackDown is going over to Raw to go, with the whole invitational thing. They can even use their own rules that they've invented that they hardly even use. But they go, but just hear me out. We could have one woman from SmackDown go to Raw and be like, hey, or we could have someone from Raw go to SmackDown and go, hey, we want that belt, and they can make that a Survivor Series thing. Brand versus brand warfare. Yeah, your brand has our belt, and the other belt, the other brand has our belt. That's actually a storyline, not announce 5 random people on Twitter as a Survivor Series thing, and then have champion versus champion. It's like you just swap belts and now you're fighting each other. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be Becky versus Charlotte at Survivor Series.
I was literally about to say, maybe you have a pay-per-view where brands go up against each other, and it actually gives some stakes to stuff. If the brand swaps and bits and pieces was random, you could maybe understand they may end up with the belts on the wrong shows and stuff. But guess what? Wrestling is predetermined. You could have easily solved this by having Charlotte drop the belt to Bianca Belair, which Charlotte recommended. So, yeah, that whole situation with her and Becky, like, both of them were...
They even edited the segment.
Yeah. They both were protecting their characters because both of them, as in their character, well, both of them probably in general as well, were like, I would never hand this belt over. This is the reason I exist, is to have this belt. I'm not just going to randomly give it to somebody. And it just, I mean, they started it last year, didn't they, with the New Day and the Street Profits just deciding to swap belts. And that kind of went under the radar, although it did annoy everyone. But it kind of went under the radar because they made it a bit comic, because it's the New Day and the Street Profits. Charlotte and Becky have made these characters over the years of investment. The man, the queen. These aren't things that the man and the queen would do. And then Sonya Deville stuck in the middle of them. Like, ooh, you better do it. You better sort this out. It's just, it is. Well, I look at the divisions now and I just wonder how they make. I can't. They've released so many. Like their women's, as I said before, their women's division is now garbage from what it was and the potential it had. The women's division might as well not exist. You might as well unify the belts. You might as well. I wish they unified the tag belts.
Yep.
Because there's no such thing as a tag division in WWE.
It would make things more interesting too. It'd be like, oh, this person coming on SmackDown, or this person showing up on Raw to challenge for these belts. Like you don't. And then again, it's always funny. It's like, wait, I thought they were the world champion. Oh yeah, WWE has two world champions.
Well, no, one is the Universal Champion and the other is the WWE Champion. So which is better? There's only one way to find out, having a fight at Survivor Series again.
Well, in my opinion, the WWE Championship will always be better than the Universal Championship because of its lineage and because how the Universal Championship just didn't need to happen. They could have just kept the lineage with the World Heavyweight Championship that they had before. That belt was beautiful.
That belt was beautiful. And that belt was, yeah. And you look at the design of the, again, not to sound like the fanboy, but you know what? I prefer their product because it treats me with intelligently.
Exactly. That's exactly.
AEW's belt looks like something you would want to have.
Yeah, well, I totally. Once I get the money, if I can get $800, that AEW championship's going to be on my wall. I do have the WWE championship on my wall, but the AEW one, I need to get a replica. I need to get one.
It just is exquisite. And that's what the championship belt should be. You're the world champion. You should have something. The only criticism I have, I don't know if you've ever noticed this with AEW. The amount of times the champions leave their belts behind.
Yeah,
it's starting to annoy me so much. In fact, I did like the fact that Adam Page did pick it up and said to Kenny, "Look, you've forgotten something."
Yeah.
And basically said, "Keep it warm for 10 days because I'm going to take that off you at Full Gear." But yeah, I was just like, these belts are so beautiful. Keep hold of them. So yeah. But yeah, that whole belt swap stuff is just, it sums up the whole problem with the product, is that the belts are trinkets. They mean nothing. Yep. The whole Charlotte now has gone from, what was she, a 16-time champion or something? Of 15-time champion to now 11-time champion randomly because they've taken off her NXT runs and bits and pieces, and you're just like, oh, just shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, it's funny, hilarious. And speaking of the women's division, we were completely supposed to talk about the TBS championship bracket, and we didn't. And it's time to wrap this up.
Oh no. Well, you know what? We can talk about it in February next year once it's all happened.
There you go. But we'll wrap things up here, and I'm going to tell you, because before I could see her as a champion. I could see her somewhere. She is the perfect winner for the TBS championship, and that is Jade Cargill.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is. They just need to rename it, not that bitch show.
Yeah, don't do that.
that bitch strap is the way you go with that. It writes itself, but there we go. So yeah.
And the finals are going to be Jade Cargill versus Ruby Soho.
Yeah.
And if Ruby Soho wins it, I'm just as happy. But it suits Jade so goddamn well. She's got the whole man. I don't even know what AEW is a smart company, but I don't even know how to explain this. Like, I don't even think they know what they have with Jade Cargill. Because
I don't think anybody does. Have you seen her?
Oh my god, have I seen her? She's one of my favorites. I love her. I think she's fantastic, and I can't wait to see her as champion. Like it just she's like a cutout Marvel, DC, Tekken video game, Soul Calibur character, and like she's got it all. She can wrestle. She's got the body. She's got the strength. Like she's got the charisma. Like she's just the whole goddamn package.
Yep, and with some reps and some more time in the ring. Yeah.
I will wrap things up though on a positive note. I will say, since we've been kind of chewing out WWE here, and as much as I do hate the Saudi Arabia shows, I will say this year's Saudi Arabia show was the best one to date.
Yeah, but it's unfortunately it's all sports washing. So there we go.
It is, but I have to shout out there were some good matches on that show, and Edge versus Seth Rollins really tore the house down. So I watched it and I was like, you know what? That wasn't a bad afternoon of wrestling. I quite enjoyed Crown Jewel. So it was the best Crown Jewel to date, which isn't saying much, but at the same time, it felt like it actually didn't need all these legends. It was messy because it was just kind of there because Survivor Series is right after and the draft and all that nonsense that was surrounding it. But as a pay-per-view as a whole, it wasn't bad. So I'll give credit where it's due.
I have not watched it.
Fair enough. Hey, fair enough. Lots of people haven't watched it. They're probably thinking the same thing as you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that though, we'll wrap things up. It was great to have you back, James. Hopefully we'll have you back soon enough, if as long as life doesn't get in the way. But as you know, you're my co-host. You're always welcome here.
I will knock down the door and shove anybody that's in my seat. There you go.
The forbidden door opens up. I get another co-host.
The forbidden
James
door
walks
is
in
up.
here later. James walks in later. What are you doing here?
I just walk in like Eddie Kingston does to the ring. There we go.
There you go. And as always, thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the podcast. If you want to hear your voice in here, simply send me a PM on any of my social media. I would love to talk to you. James would love to talk to you if he's available, of course.
if I allow you to talk to me, there you go.
Oh, there you go. James is laying down the smack it down on Wrastlin Wrantz, so I guess he's in charge around here. As for the social medias, you can find us at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, Lotus M Productions on Instagram for the independent music side of things, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. With that, this has been LMP Wrestling, and we are signing off.